Unscripted. We are so glad that you're here. Kelly Ann and I are using a brand new platform to launch this podcast, which is really great. We're both having some fun learning some new technology and new ways of being able to make this not only easier for us, but also great for you so that you can find episodes and find us live on several platforms at a time. So while Kellyanne's doing what she's doing over there, I just thought I'd quickly remind those of you that are tuning in for the first time, Raw and Unscripted has come about because both Kellyanne and I believe that when we share conversations, talk about things that have been impactful for us in our lives, and do so in a really beautiful, raw, and vulnerable way sometimes, that it allows us all to connect as human beings and to feel safe at this time in our lives, but also to move our lives forward. And we're so glad that you're here. As you're tuning in, please say hi in the comments so that we know that you're here. And if you feel comfortable and like to share it out, you're more than welcome to. And I'm going to say also, before we get off on our topic for today, do something for us right now, write in the comments right now, something that you're grateful for. It's the beginning of a new day, or maybe it's a different time of day for you, but we can always find gratitude in our day. So how are you doing, Kellyanne?
Great. That's a great idea, Kim. Gratitude is I know it's such an important part of my day. So we'd love to see what you're grateful for. So as Kim said, we are excited to be trying something new here today. And we want to make these conversations that we have important to you. And we believe that the things that we are sharing, that we are talking about, there's no small talk here. We're talking about important things. And we know that that has been how we have grown, how we have moved forward in our journey. You have to talk about important things. So we are so excited to share today's topic, which is a topic that really changed everything for me. I have been on a personal development journey for 20 years, but this information that we're going to talk about today, I really only discovered this about 3 to 4 years ago. And I have to tell you, it changed everything for me. So today we're going to talk about where your thoughts come from, because sometimes the idea of making changes in our lives can be overwhelming. We don't know where to start. So we're going to take it right back down to where those thoughts start, because that really is the key. Understanding that is the kind of the base for moving forward. So, Kim, are you ready? Do you want me to take this from the top?
Why don't you get us started? And Kellyanne and I were saying, like, we all have different backgrounds. Both of us have different backgrounds. Some of us have been doing certain work for longer periods of time. My work in the subconscious mind has definitely been more of a more recent journey. Although I recognize the importance of it because I can see how it's definitely my subconscious mind, how it got me to where I was. Okay, so I can say that, but in terms of the actual learning, which we're here to teach you about, we're here to help you become aware of. I think, Kellyanne, I'm going to let you take the lead on this one and get it started for us.
Okay, perfect. So today we are going to start with our mind. Your mind is the most amazing thing that you have. It is the control center of everything. And we think in pictures. So if I were to say to you, tell me about your house, you would get a picture in your mind and you'd be able to tell me all the things about your house, what color your door is, where your windows are, that type of thing. But when we think about the mind, we often think about the brain. And the brain is not the mind. The mind is something totally different. The mind is in every part of you. Sorry, my dog's barking. Somebody's at the door.
Realize
Yeah, exactly. Raw and unscripted. But your mind is in every part of you, and your mind is where everything comes from. So today, I was given this little graphic that has helped me immensely, and I want to share that today because I think it's a good place to start. So, I just have a little whiteboard here that I'm going to share with you. So, I want you to picture, whoops, I got a bit of a glare there. Okay. So, this is the body and this is the mind. Now you can see the mind is much bigger than the body because the body is an instrument of the mind. Everything that we do, all the actions we take, all the behaviors that we have, all the results that we get come from the mind. So picture this as the mind. Now, scientifically, I'm sure there are lots of parts of the mind, and we are certainly not scientists. But today, for simplicity's sake, I want you to imagine that the mind is divided into two parts. This is your conscious mind. This is your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is your educated mind. That's where all your thinking comes from. Everything that you read, your education, all of that goes into your conscious mind. The subconscious mind is your feeling mind. This is where all your emotions are. This is also where all your beliefs, I call them paradigms, all of your programming sits in your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is what controls the body. We act from our subconscious mind about 95% of our day. And from our conscious mind, about 5% of our day. So you can imagine if you are trying to think your way to changing your life, if you're trying to think your way to different results, that's only 5% of your day. This is the part that you have to understand, this subconscious mind.
And this is where I will, first of all, thank you for everyone that's tuning in right now. Kellyanne, I love that ability for you to just teach that in a graphic. And it was, when we learn new concepts, we have to learn them in a level that is understandable. So I just want to say, amazing with that. So I want you to think, everyone, about some of the things that you've been trying to accomplish, or things that you say you want to do so badly. And you recognize 95% of everything that you're thinking, feeling, acting, your behaviors are coming from that subconscious mind, from our feelings and our patterns. So when we try to think our way through things, or in my world, people try to use their willpower, that energy, right? That's why we're not failing at things. It's understandable that everything is coming from our patterns, from the things that we have picked up. This is where I will share with you, and we'll start this conversation. I think this is a good place to take it, is that this subconscious part of our mind, where everything has formed from, has been formed in those primary years between our birth and 7 years old, sometimes a little bit older, 8 or 9, but definitely in those formative years. And when we think about those early years, when you're a child, when you're a baby and you're observing the world, that's what you're doing. You're observing the people who have a nurturing role in your life, your parents, your grandparents, your nursery school provider. Those are the people that have a role, your cousins, your siblings. And we're watching them and we're learning and we're absorbing. And when we do this, we get praised. When we don't do that, we get punished. And we start to see these things starting to evolve. We then, and it's not like we're doing it consciously because we're children, but we're taking on these patterns, our brain, a picture like a sponge, and you're picking in all of this information up on, okay, well, when I do this, I am rewarded. When I cry, I am punished. Whatever it is what you received as a child, you then start to go, okay, this is how I'm supposed to behave in this world. It all happens at an unconscious level. And what we're here to tell you, because this is, it's great. And we're going to, maybe Kellyanne, I'll let you go a little bit further with this, but recognizing that, yes, we have passed. Yes, those beliefs have been formed in those early childhood years. But what we know about the brain, which we didn't, or the mind, which we didn't know before, is that it is not fixed. We used to believe that everything was permanent, it couldn't be changed, is rigid. We now know that it is formable, it can be changed, it can be adopted, new patterns, new belief systems, which is what both Kellyanne and I have been 100% working on in our lives. Because when we recognize that maybe something that we are living, the way we're experiencing life, yes, it may have been from our past that we have adopted these belief systems. I'm even thinking of a person who was told, oh, she's shy, she's shy, she's shy. Just because you maybe were a quieter child, and then you now go, well, I can't do that thing because I'm shy. Or, well, this is just who I am. I just want you to really question that, because a lot of the time when we're wanting to grow and develop ourselves, especially those of you that are on a self-improvement journey, you do have to sometimes step away from those things that have kept us comfortable. They kept us comfortable, and that's what the brain likes to do. Is the brain likes to go back to everything that helps it feel safe. That is the role of the brain. So it wants to keep you comfortable. It doesn't want you to make mistakes, all of those things. And it likes to take the path of least resistance. I always like to use the analogy that, let's say you go out your door every morning, and if you tend to live a lifestyle that is more of a pessimistic way of thinking about things, then you're going to tend to want to keep going in that direction. But in order for us to be able to take a different path, we have to then learn how to nurture that new pathway of our thoughts so that we're able to create that, which we're going to talk about in next week's episode that much more. But I want you to know that nothing is permanent here, but everything is adopted in those early years based on the people that you had in your life. And this is where I always want to touch on these pieces, because not everyone has had the same upbringing. Okay. I don't need to elaborate on that. Some people's lifestyles growing up, they had what we would consider in this world the normal traditional family upbringing environment. Okay. Whatever that looks like. But not everyone did. Not everyone had it. And so, some of the ways that we're behaving and the ways that we think tend to come from our upbringing and how we experience life and what we had to do in order to be able to survive at that time.
Exactly. And I think the beliefs, so the paradigms or the beliefs that have been instilled in you from that early age, what happens, and they come from a variety, Kim talked about your parents, your grandparents, all of those places, from school. As a retired teacher, I didn't really understand all that when I was teaching those little ones, and I would have taught differently if I had known this. They might come from your religion. They might come from your culture. Like, there are so many places that these beliefs come from, because your subconscious mind is wide open. It has no filter. So today, if somebody were to say to you, I think you should be doing this, or this is the right way to do things, you have the ability to say, no, that's not, I don't agree with that. But from birth to 7, our minds, we didn't have the ability to reject anything. So everything went in. And those beliefs, they control your whole life. These are beliefs about yourself, your self-image. They were formed from that early age. Beliefs about money, beliefs about marriage, beliefs about work, beliefs about faith, beliefs about everything. So when you can actually understand where these, and start to dive into where these beliefs have come from, all of a sudden you realize that they can be changed. You realize that what has happened in the past doesn't have to have any bearing on the future. And we're going to talk again, more about that in the next week when we really dive into how to change these. But that understanding, at least for me, it gave me a lot of compassion for myself. I'll just share one belief that I held. And if you have had challenges in your childhood, if you lived in a home where there was conflict, where there was chaos, where there was substance abuse, where there was, child abuse, any of those things, those have had a huge impact on you. For me, I I had a happy childhood until the age of 9, where I was sexually abused by my parish priest, and I talk about that in episode 2. If you haven't listened to that yet, but what that did, even though I was past that age of 7, I still wasn't at the point where I could actually reject the ideas that I started to have about myself. But the paradigms that started running through me, the beliefs that were instilled in me, was that somehow I was dirty, somehow I was not worthy, and those ran my life for a lot of years, because what happens is we will always act in alignment with our beliefs. So when you have a belief from the age of 7, from the age of 9, whatever it is, from the age of 2, if you were told that your birth was a mistake, if you believed that you weren't wanted as a child, you will search for evidence of those beliefs. And believe me, you will find whatever you are searching for. So if you believe that you are not worthy, that all the things that happen in your life, the relationship that falls apart, not being chosen for the high school play, not being chosen for a team, all of those things reinforce that belief, and it just becomes stronger and stronger. So that's why being able to understand that subconscious mind gives you so much power, because you can now look at it and say, instead of asking yourself, like I used to say to myself, this is just who I am. Like, I don't know how to change. This is who I am. I don't like the person that I am necessarily. But once I started to understand my subconscious programming, I realized that it was something that I could change, that I could have an effect, and I could change my personality, really. There's a great book called Personality Isn't Permanent. And it's exactly this, that as Kim said, our brains, our mind is, there is a growth mindset. We can change. We don't have to stay stuck where we are.
You always share such beautiful wisdom in a way that we can all understand. So thank you for that, Kellyanne. What also is coming up for me right now that I think we should all recognize is that the way it's not like you were told something as a child. Okay. It's not like you were told you're not lovable, but maybe when you were, if we think about some of the ways that we were taught to parent, and sometimes there still is parents parenting this way, letting your child cry it out, letting them learn how to self-soothe. There are certain needs that we have as a child that need to be formed in order for us to feel safe with ourselves. And so we can internalize as a child these types of beliefs around ourselves, even if it wasn't outwardly said to us, right? And I want you to just recognize that, right? Another analogy that I want to share is, and one that is used a lot when we talk about this. So Kellyanne made a comment saying that, we go out in the world looking for the evidence, because again, this is the power of the mind. We get to choose our thoughts and what we want them to lead us to. But I want you to think of a necklace with a string of pearls, right? You can have that initial incident where you picked up this belief system that you adopted for yourself. You placed it on that necklace chain. And then as you continue to form more beliefs around that and more experiences that feed into that belief, you just keep laying on pearls around that necklace and forming it. I will say that, and this is why I was literally just talking about this with somebody yesterday. The reason why I'm doing this work for myself is because I know the power of it, because I literally feel like a different person. But are we a different person, or have we just come back to who we have always been? Right? Like that's
Right.
essentially it. We're not trying to become someone different. We're coming back to the wholeness that we were when we came into the world. But recognizing that the older you get, you just have that many more years of laying down these patterns. And I'm not saying that it's never ever too late. Never too late.
No.
Okay, but recognize that, the older you are, the more those patterns are instilled, and so the subconscious mind needs repetition. Okay, you have had years and years of finding evidence and laying down the same thoughts, speaking out the words. That's another whole piece of this, is how I speak, because as I speak and use certain words, the brain will continue to enforce those belief systems.
Mhm.
I won't go into detail a lot on this one, but understand that the brain, the subconscious mind, does not know how to process negatives. So that's another whole piece of this. Maybe that's for episode next week's episode. I'll leave that for next week. But recognizing that how we speak to ourselves also is continuing to instill these beliefs and making them stronger and stronger.
That's
So,
oh,
pardon me.
so that's so right, Kim. I mean, if you watch what you say to yourself, start to really get curious about the things that you say to yourself. And there are things that you might say out loud, but there are things that you might say in your head. I had a belief, and I'm still working to change it, that I was a quitter.
Mm.
I didn't follow through with things. And so that's I would self sabotage, because I would start something. And then, for example, I'll give you an example. I decided that I wanted to run a 5K, and I decided that I was going to train for that. And I'm not a runner at all. And so I started the first couple mornings, got up early, went for, a walk, run. And then the third morning comes, and I think, oh, this bed is so nice and cozy. I don't want to get out of here. And what goes through my mind subconsciously is, you know what, Kellyanne, you're a quitter anyways. So if you do this, I was acting in alignment with what I believed about myself.
Mhm.
And as Kim said, that repetition of it, just, the things that you say to yourself, maybe you say, I catch myself all the time, I'm not good at that. I can't do that. And
Other people do it better than me. Like
exactly.
these are the things that hold us back. Right.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
exactly. No, you're right. So we hold ourselves back, we sabotage ourselves by these beliefs. And I just want to share this analogy that I heard somewhere that I really loved, is that your subconscious mind is like a closet. And there are all these clothes in your subconscious mind. But many of them don't suit you. They don't look good on you. But the closet wasn't curated by you. You didn't choose these outfits. And so many of them are not serving you. They're not making you your best, not making you look your best. So maybe it's time to start getting rid of those clothes and buying new ones so that you can curate your own closet. And that's the same idea as reprogramming your subconscious mind. You are eliminating the beliefs that often, many of them are not true. Many of them are lies that you have believed about yourself because of, it could even have been one incident. It could have been one thing a teacher said to you. It could have been one thing a parent said to you. And they're lies. And you have lived your whole life believing those lies. So it's time to let them go.
Hmm. This makes me think of an NLP tool that I use, neuro linguistic programming tool. So again, I love the closet analogy. Of course, anything that's related to clothing and getting rid of things that do not serve you, I'm all over that. But I also want to think about your brain, your mind as a filing cabinet as well. So you can have one drawer of beliefs that you don't believe or things that are from your past. So your brain stores things, right? So I have an amazing tool that allows you to move belief systems about yourself and change the way you store them in your brain. It's a fabulous tool. I've used it with my clients before, and a great tool. And again, it goes back to the brain. We can't try and logically change things. Everything is stored in pictures, right? So, and I guess that's the other thing I want to share here as well is there could be a belief that your parents believed. I can think of, many beliefs. You brought up one about money, Kellyanne, like our
Mhm.
belief systems around money. And they can go in many directions, whereby somebody is really, really, they can't spend and they hold on to everything and they fear there isn't going to be more money coming. Or there could be the other person who, as soon as they get the money, they spend it, right? Like it can go in many directions. But understanding that just because you believed something and you picked on a belief system from parents, from a teacher, and so forth, you get to be at this stage of your life, because this is where we are, right? We're coaches. So we're not talking about, going into the past and living in the past. We want to get you right here in your present and help you change your present so you can change your future. That is what this is all about here. So you can go, you know what? I have believed this about myself. I have believed that I'm not lovable. I have believed that my body isn't deserving of love and worth and celebration. I believed that because of what I've been taught about it based on what society tells me. But I can choose to change that belief system. It means new repetition, laying down there, working it like a muscle, just like any muscle, any type of training. You have to condition that muscle. And the mind is the same way.
Exactly. I love that, Kim. And
Mhm,
the other thing I want to say is that not all of the beliefs that you have, not all of the paradigms are bad.
mhm,
Many of the beliefs that have been instilled in you are very positive and they serve you.
mhm,
So don't think that everything, and this is the other thing is this is never to place blame
mhm.
on anybody or a family member. This is never to say, well, my parents did this to me, because no matter what has happened, as long as you stay in that victim mode, you will never change. But as soon as you start to say, okay, yes, I understand where some of these beliefs are coming from, but it's my responsibility to
This
change.
this is what we call cause and effect in the NLP world. So if I'm living at effect, that means I'm living with the belief that, victimhood, that this is the way it is, that the world is out to get me, that nothing goes right for me. We find blame, we find reasons, and we keep ourselves in that place. And this is not, we're not here to judge, like we're here to just present information. But when we live in cause, am I saying this right? When we live at effect, no, cause. I'm having a moment in my own brain right now. We want to be able to recognize that there's ownership here. We've been talking a lot about this. There's ownership for our lives. Both of us have experiences in our past where we were in a form of suffering.
Mhm,
Absolutely.
mhm,
Life is too precious. Every single day that you wake up and you are alive again to live another day means that you still have purpose and you still have the ability to live a beautiful life no matter your circumstances from the past. It's just recognizing that, each day we have the opportunity to look for ways that we can change those thoughts. And when we change our thoughts, okay, maybe that's where we should speak about this for a brief moment.
mhm,
Everything starts from a thought.
mhm,
Those thoughts create feelings and emotions within us. They lead us then to some type of action, doing something, quitting her 5K run,
mhm,
quitting, trying to drink more water, whatever it might be for you. And then that's ultimately going to cause you to have an end result that is either working in the favor of where you're going or against. Everything comes back to your thoughts. This is why, people will try to be like, oh, I'm going to, bring my water bottle in the car. You know how many times I hear people say, I bring my water to work and I don't drink a single sip from it, right? That's
mhm.
because we're trying to change our environment. But if the thoughts are still there that you're a quitter, that you never follow through with things, that water's going to keep sitting there. So we want to really start to address our thoughts, next week's episode, I'll start to wrap this up for us. Next week's episode, we are going to elaborate on this because, and these are foundational learnings. There's plenty and plenty of books for you to start to go a little deeper on all of this at the pace that feels right for you. But recognize that there's the foundation. Here are the thoughts. This is why they're so important. We're going to keep repeating the same things over and over and over unless we address the thoughts. So next week's episode, we're going to do that. We're going to talk to you about how we can start to shift and shape our thoughts into moving us in the direction that we want to go. Knowing that what's important for you, Kellyanne, is going to be different than for me. The goals that you're striving for are different from me. We're all different. But I believe ultimately we have so many similar foundations. So we're so glad that you're here. Do you have anything else you want to share, Kellyanne, before we wrap this one up?
I just wanted to share that if you are not following either Kim or myself on Instagram or Facebook, this is the work that we do. We help people to change their beliefs, to change their paradigms, to create new thoughts and new beliefs, to push themselves forward, to live a life they love. We provide a lot of free content on our pages and on Instagram. So if you're not following us, please head over there and have a look. There, I was just listening to a podcast this morning that said, "Isn't it amazing? All of this wonderful information is available to all of us free." Right? We just have to sign on and listen to our podcast, listen to other podcasts, watch other people on social media, share valuable content, and it's all free. So we want to thank you for being with us. And as Kim said, this is just the beginning of really the whole transformation process is really what we're talking about. And next week, we're going to dive in a little bit more into this.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And on that note, take a look at your social media content. If you are following people that you do not feel are supporting you at this stage of your life, know that you can unfollow. Know that you can mute. I've muted people that, if I'm feeling I need to. So I just have to add that in, right? Like, yes, there's plenty of information on social media for us, but is that information serving you? That's for you to decide. All right. Thank you, everyone. You can find me on Instagram at @KimBasler_food freedom. I will type that in the comments afterwards. What about you, Kellyanne?
You can find me at Appleton Kellyanne on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. We will tune in. If you're watching this back as a replay, feel free to type in the comments. We ask that you do that. Ask questions. Engage with us. Let us know that what your biggest takeaway was for you. And of course, if you have any ideas or things that you want us to speak about in the future, Raw and Unscripted is a fairly large platform that we can talk about many things. We wanted it to be that way. So know that your ideas matter. Share them with us. And of course, if you want to know more about how to work with one of us, reach out to us. We're here to have those conversations with you. Have a fabulous Tuesday, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Have an amazing